now. Hey, you're listening to another episode of the Total Basis Podcast. And with me is my co-host, Austin Spiro. Austin, how you doing this evening?
I'm all right, Felipe. Long day of work, but I'm glad to be here. How you doing?
Oh, you know how the song goes, man. Work sucks. I know. She brought me roses too. Anyway, I am Felipe. I did not introduce myself properly, and this is the Total Basis Podcast. We are streaming live from the Baseball Live Facebook group. As you know, Austin, it is the best baseball group on Facebook. So
I mean, it really is.
Yeah. Well, tell us all about it, man. How did you bump into us?
So I had just recently gotten Facebook. I haven't had social media for very long. I think I've only had it for a few years. And I had just missed talking about baseball. And I think I've said it either on my podcast, Round Trippers podcast, or on yours. Maybe I've said it on both. I know a lot about baseball, and, I've lived my life either playing baseball or watching baseball, or so I've studied the game all my life. And when I talk to regular people about baseball, I sound like I'm crazy, so I thought, well, maybe, and I hadn't joined any groups on Facebook. So I thought maybe a group on Facebook would be good. And I joined a couple baseball groups, they seem pretty big and whatever. And a lot of the other Facebook groups, like if you mention anything, like they're quick to bash you. Like it was really, really it was terrible. Like all they wanted to do was argue with you. And I didn't like it. And I just happened to stumble upon Baseball Life just looking for baseball groups. And I just really liked the fact that we could all talk about baseball. And there's a lot of very competent baseball fans that know the game or how to talk about the game, or can at least, they may have a hot take, but they can have numbers to back it up, or they have something to back it up.
Evidence, data.
Yeah, some sort of evidence, whether it's statistical or not.
Or
and
narrative.
I just enjoyed the conversation in Baseball Life. So I ditched all the other baseball groups, and here I am in Baseball Life. And now, what is it? 2 years later, I have my own podcast, and then I'm here talking with you.
Yeah. Funny how that started. I remember you actually be waking up super early on the West Coast just to listen to Sean and I talk about fantasy baseball. I'm like, hey, this kid's a regular, he's always on. And then he's like, hey, I never done fantasy baseball before. I think I'm going to start after listening to your show. Like, okay, by all means. And then I defeated you in the newbie league,
sure. Do we really have to talk about home field advantage again?
Hey man, you could have won all those games like I won all those games,
Yeah, whatever.
But at any rate,
one game behind. One game.
Almost doesn't count, brother. You gotta, ask the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah. As my former baseball coach used to say, almost only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and scuds.
All right. Okay.
That's what he used to tell me.
Well, like Brandon used to say, almost doesn't count. And then she'd go on to sing with Monica and about boys and stuff. Anyway, as I am trying my best not to go off a tangent here, but yeah, one of the things I tell people is like, we try to build a family atmosphere, and you mentioned it, like, people, it's a different group, right? It's a different Facebook group where people can discuss. And I think the admins, especially me, I am the best admin in this group. I'm just gonna go out there and say it. I am the best. Everything you see there it has my thumbprint and not just joking, but it is something that we wanted to do because we're just like you, man. We were in all these other baseball groups and they were trash, and everybody's just going after people's families and making fun of other people's wives and kids, and it got ugly. So we wanted to do something different, as you are experiencing that so-called life group difference that I kind of coined a long time ago, just as a joke, but then it just became a pattern. Like, hey, there's something special going on here. And what we established in 2017, and 5 years later, we're still rolling and making for in a small way we're impacting people's lives. Total strangers that we meet, strangers like you. I didn't know that you existed until you joined our group. So
right,
yeah. Anyway, let's talk about some real baseball. Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Can you see my screen? Because as you know,
I can see your screen. We already got a couple people watching. What's up, Larry? What's up, Corey?
Oh, Larry's here. Corey Decker?
Corey Richmond.
even better, Corey Richmond, the Work Shoot podcast. I think their run is over, but you want to know, you want to talk wrestling, talk with Corey Richmond. He knows a lot about wrestling. So as you guys know, this is a spreadsheet driven show because we don't just, talk out of our asses. We back it up, like Austin said, with data and statistics. And right now, this is just a simple spreadsheet, like we've been doing, trying to gauge who the best players at each position was. And for starting pitching, what I did was, again, number of wins. You get 10 points for leading the league. You got 9 points for finishing in second, 8 points for being in third, and so on and so forth. There was a 1 million, 8-man tie for sixth place, I guess. So that's why all these players got 5 points. So, but as you can see, Dawson, Julio Urias got the most wins in the 2021 campaign. And I know that wins are an archaic way to look at pitchers, but anybody on this list of 13 players who finish in the top 10, so to speak? Was it like the Big Ten conference here? But anybody catch your eye there?
I think this group of wins, or this group of players here, is the reason why you should not trust only wins, or you shouldn't put a lot of stock in wins in terms of pitcher performance throughout a given season. Because in any other statistic, in a lot of other statistics, Kyle Hendricks is actually one of the worst performers in 2021, and yet he's in a 8-man tie for 6th place on the list of wins in all of MLB. So there's a lot of things that contribute to a win, and it's not necessarily a pitcher. He just happens to stand on the mound and go the qualified amount of innings when they won. So the one that surprises me the most is Kyle Hendricks, but I mean, there's a bunch of people here like Hyunjin Ryu. If you look at some of the other statistics, you don't really see Ryu, don't really see Mats. Flexen had a good year. He was on a few, a little bit. But Kyle Hendricks is the one that really bounces out at me, because most other statistics, Kyle Hendricks is one of the worst pitchers in 2021.
Yeah, there you go. And that was the big argument at the when we did the draft between Sean and I, as he was a lot of people were at the beginning of the year back in March, coming after me for picking Kevin Gausman over guys like Jin Ryu and Kyle Hendricks and all those guys. And like, no, I am happy with Kevin Gausman. I mean, that was the big thing that Sean always had on me. Well, at least Kyle Hendricks has more wins than Kevin Gausman. And no, they have about the same amount now. What's up? What's up? Even from a traditional standpoint, you got nothing on Kevin Gausman. All those other pitchers were bumps. Felipe was right. You guys can all suck it. But yeah, Chris Flexen is the weird one for me. I did not expect a Chris Flexen to be a league leader in anything, but the Mariners were good, and I'm pretty sure he was a big part of it. So with that being said, let's move to another traditional statistic, and that's ERA, where, Corbin Burns and Max Scherzer are at the top of the list. That's no surprise. Walker Buehler, Brandon Woodruff, and Lance Lynn. And as you can see, minimum is 150 innings that I use here. I don't think that's that counts as the qualifying mark in terms of Fangraphs and the official statistics. But as you know, Austin, I like to lower the qualifier just so I can see more names, more pitchers, more players, other names that we might have missed that might make a push for next season. We shall see. But there you go. There's our top 5. So I ask you the same question. From this list of the top 10 in ERA, all the way down on Marcus Strowman, who's your big surprise there that you didn't expect to see here?
For ERA, probably, this one's tough. Strowman, probably. Not because he's a bad pitcher, but because, there are years that he has struggled. I want to say Lynn, because Lynn's getting up there a little bit and he relies a lot on the fastball. So when you have a pitcher that relies a lot on the fastball, the ERA tends to go up a little bit. But other than that, I think Lynn and Strowman are the ones that jump out at me. And then obviously Robbie Ray, I guess you can throw in there. Robbie Ray had a Cy Young caliber year. And I was talking to somebody on the Baseball Life podcast when they were talking about the Angels should go for Robbie Ray. And Or there was a meme that the Angels should go for Robbie Ray because he's a free agent this year. I said, well, Robbie Ray is a little too inconsistent, I think, for the Angels to give it a shot. But I mean, I think he'd be worth a little shot, but I don't think we should pay him too much money in the Angels' case. And they were like, well, Robbie Ray had a Cy Young caliber year this year. He's possibly going to win the Cy Young this year. Like, yeah, this year. If you look at his last 3 years, they've either been decent or terrible. So, that is Robbie Ray has been the surprise of the season. So I guess those are the three: Lance Lynn, Robbie Ray, and Marcus Stroman.
So I always had faith in Robbie Ray. Just a matter of him putting together, controlling those walks. It's Marcus Stroman, who is the big surprise, just sneaking into the top 10 for me. Marcus Stroman's always been someone. I guess he came up with like a high pedigree and a lot of promise when he was with the Blue Jays, but it always seemed like he was a guy that, I guess you could say the same thing about Robbie Ray, but for me, it has to be Marcus Stroman, just because it seemed like he was on the dip, man, that he was dipping, that he was already declining. There was really nothing special. He's a small guy, so it's like, I don't trust you, man. But you know what, he lacks in size and probably stuff at this point of his career. He way more than makes up for it, and those intangibles that people love, and he has that bulldog mentality, has that ace mentality. Is he really an ace? No, but you know what it is. There, Austin is. He reminds you. You ever watch those cartoons from the old days, and they always have that little anthropomorphic character, the little guy, and he always has the biggest bite and the biggest bark just to make up for the size factor. That's Marcus Stroman.
Marcus Stroman is like the Scrappy Doo of the MLB.
Hey, there you go. He's the Scrappy Doo of starting pitchers of 2021. Marcus Scrappy Doo Stroman. I love that. Just has a constant chip on his shoulder for no reason. Just like, and I know Yankee fans love him a lot too. So
yeah.
Oh yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what he draws in terms of contract wise and even interest in the free agent market this year with Max Scherzer and people like that on the market as well. I'll be interested to see what pitchers like him and John Gray get in this free agent market.
Well, I feel like Marcus Stroman is such a chip on his shoulder, scrappy dude kind of guy that he will purposely take a 2-year, $30 million contract just to prove a point to the haters.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. That's how much I think about Marcus Stroman.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I think the other athlete I think with that chip on his shoulder that I would compare him to is Kevin Durant.
Yeah, but
Kevin Durant always has like that social media presence where he's got to bite back at the haters and stuff. I don't know. Marcus Stroman and Kevin Durant have always reminded me of each other.
Well, Kevin Durant is actually big and he's actually good. Like he's actually has athletic ability that I don't know. I just don't picture Marcus Stroman with that same those same attributes that Kevin Durant has.
Right.
And when you're one of the best players in the NBA, I think, if you guys don't know, I am like the biggest Kevin Durant fan. You have that right to do whatever the hell you want on social media. Marcus Stroman, on the other hand, what's he done? Nothing for nobody. What, a WBC victory? Oh, good for you, Marcus. Good for you. Riding the coattails of Giancarlo Stanton and Kristen Yelich and Adam Jones over there. Okay. We move on to the whip. No surprise again. This time it's Max Scherzer at top, Corbin Burns in second. It was they were flip-flopped in the ERA, but for whip it's Scherzer, and then for in second was Burns, followed by Burns' teammate Brandon Woodruff, Walker Buehler, and Zach Wheeler round out the top five. You're gonna see these names a lot in these statistical categories. So let's see how many people qualify here for 13. You see Jose Barrios making the list at the bottom. So with Chris Bassett, Adam Wainwright, Charlie Morton, who almost retired last year, came back and turned out to be just what the Atlanta Braves needed, So that veteran presence, that ace, quasi ace that they were looking for, while Max Fried and Ian Anderson and the other Braves starting pitchers, young pitchers, were trying to figure themselves out. But I guess I would have to say Chris Bassett, even although you know what it is, Austin, with Chris Bassett, every time he's been what's the correct narrative here? Like people have been doubting him for like the last 2-3 years, and all he does is put up results, right?
Exactly.
Anything. I mean, you're an Angels fan, you see him a lot. What do you make of Chris Bassett?
I like Chris Bassett. I've always liked Chris Bassett as a pitcher. He's very much a typical A's type pitcher, but he does put up results. He consistently goes out there. And I mean, I even have all the more respect to him after he got drilled in the face this year by a line drive and came back in the same season. There aren't very many people that can do that. And two people did that last year. Kevin Pillar getting hit in the face, and was it Pillar? Yeah, it was Pillar. And Chris Bassett getting hit on the. I mean, I don't know if anybody has ever taken anybody that's listening has ever taken a 109-mile-an-hour fastball to the face, 60 feet 6 inches away, but that hurts. Like there's gonna be some damage. So the fact that he was able to come back after a few weeks or a couple months and pitch at the end of the year for the A's, it's pretty respectable.
Yeah, I mean, hard to argue, and he keeps putting up results even when it shows that he shouldn't.
Yeah.
Just based on the, I like to keep things simple here, Austin, in case you haven't noticed. For pitchers, you either have the stuff or you have craft. And Bassett is more crafty than, a guy who, I mean, this is just the way I view him. I might be wrong. You guys want to prove me wrong, tell me that I'm wrong, go ahead and tell me. I don't care. Just like we always mention, bring the evidence and bring the facts. But for me, Chris Bassett's always been just seems like a crafty guy. And who lacks a lot of stuff, and that's how he makes up for it. And those guys, well, that's another show for another time, whether you believe in the stuff or the craft, and the location is more important. I know Eno Saris over there at The Athletic always has been touting the fact that the biggest predictor of consistency from year to year in Major League Baseball pitchers is always stuff and not craft and not location. It's stuff. It's, can you throw the ball hard? Do you have a nasty slider? Do you have a nasty curveball? Do you have a deceptive changeup that no one can catch up to? Or can they figure out where the changeup's going? And again, in terms of the fastball, does it rise and can it go up to the high 90s? That's all we care about. Stuff. Do you have it? Guts. But Bassett, like I mentioned, I feel like he's all craft. I mean, is that the wrong assessment of Chris Bassett there, Austin, or do you have a different?
I feel like he's a typical A's pitcher because he's such a crafty pitcher.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at the A's pitching staff, there isn't anybody there that's going to blow them away. They've got Sean Manaea, they've got Chris Bassett, they've got all these crafty pitchers that aren't going to blow you away, but they've got secondary pitches that can, that look deceiving, and they've got, good fastball location that makes it really difficult for hitters to hit the baseball. So, I think that's a pretty good assessment of Chris Bassett, and that's why he fits that A's pitching staff.
Well, the reason that the A's like to go with a lot of crafty pitchers is because they're cheap. They're cheaper than actually going for guys with real talent and real stuff and who can light up a radar gun. To their credit, they do a good job of stocking those bullpen arms with the guys with the big velocities.
That is true.
They're not, but again, relief pitchers are relatively cheaper than starting pitchers. Anyway, we're talking free agency. That's for another show, for another time. But another guy that surprised me, Jose Berrios, who people were kind of dogging the Blue Jays a lot for trading for the guy, giving up 2 prospects. But if for those people who always tell me that WHIP is the best indicator of talent, there you go. Jose Berrios finishes in top 10 in WHIP. So I don't want to hear it from the haters who hate Jose Berrios, who also tout the traditional stats like WHIP, which it's crazy to think that traditionally speaking, that WHIP is now a traditional stat when it really isn't. It's pretty brand new as far as I'm concerned. But
right, I feel like it's more of it's not a traditional, but it's not quite advanced anymore.
It's somewhere in between. It's like a balance. It's like the way people feel about on base percentage.
Yeah.
So that's actually a good question. When was WHIP in baseball invented?
Well, you're looking that up. Well, the other thing that I noticed in terms of WHIP anyway, I didn't look in terms of ERA and stuff, but there are 13 pitchers that qualified for the top 10, right? So you had 4 people people right there tied for what, 10th? And so of those 13 people, 4 of them are AL pitchers. The rest is NL pitchers. I feel like this year the pitching was really dominated by the NL. And we're going to get to the we're gonna get to the picks for starting pitcher and relief pitcher and stuff like that. And we talked about it in private, where you were like, man, there's a lot of NL in your picks, and I'm like, yeah, that's because the top leaderboards, no matter where you look, is littered with NL pitchers. That you don't see very many AL pitchers.
Yeah, that's true. And you want to think that it's something that just fluctuates from year to year. Sometimes the AL will be more pitching dominant than the NL, but you got to start wondering if it's just because the NL they don't provide enough depth for their position players because they have pitchers hitting still.
Yeah.
They have pitchers hitting like it's 1821 or something.
I will be really interested to see the roster construction difference for NL teams when they get the universal DH.
I can't wait. Can't wait. I'm done with this nonsense. Let the pitchers hit. Just put a T-ball up there for them, just so it could be more competitive. By the way, I was looking to see on-base percentage. But who knows when that was invented? I can't get a straight answer. But WHIP was invented in 1979, apparently. And it was a stat created for fantasy baseball purposes.
Oh, interesting.
According to the Google machine here. So it's a ratio statistic. In 1979, was that about 40 years ago at this point? And yet, so depending on who you talk to, it's either like another one of them fancy advanced statistics, or it's one of the last dying breed of the traditional statistics that traditionalists like to use. I don't know. It's weird. Baseball talk is weird. Strikeouts. Robbie Ray led the league. I mean, I like I said, I had faith in the guy. Just if he can just control his walks and keep him in check. I guess he always had. I mean, yeah, he's always had very high strikeout per 9 inning statistics. But to lead the entire league in strikeouts, that's kind of like wow. That the year of Robbie Ray in terms of the counting stats there.
I wish I had the superlative in front of me when it comes to Robbie Ray, but he reached a milestone career strikeout count this year, and he was the fastest pitcher to do it in MLB history. But I don't remember which one it was. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But I thought that was really surprising. I was like, really? Okay, all right. Well, that's good for him. So, good for Robbie Ray. He's finding his strikeout stuff. And yeah, good for Robbie Ray.
Yeah. Another surprise, Dylan Cease, who also came equipped with a pretty high K per 9 inning. But the knock on Dylan Cease is that he seems like forever and a day has constant command problems. Not necessarily control problems. I mean, he does have that, but it's just being able to move the ball in and out of the strike zone and do swings. It seems like people are just kind of sitting on that fastball and not falling for those sliders. And yet he's still finished in the top 10 in strikeouts. So good for him. Aaron Nola also finishes in the top 10, which my buddy Sean used to say about him that he's not really an ace. He's a kind of a pseudo ace or not a real ace. I don't know, man. Top 10 in strikeouts. That's pretty ace-like to me, buddy.
Right.
So I don't know if that's the Mets fan in him talking or if he just really doesn't like Aaron Nola. I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention was, so I know I talked last episode about the number that Jonathan Lee and I have been discussing, and that Jonathan created himself. And I kind of got curious if I could create my own number for pitchers. I haven't really quite nailed down the all around pitchers, but I tried to do ground out or ground ball, fly ball, and strikeout pitchers. I think I found a pretty good strikeout pitching statistic. It takes into consideration called strikes, swinging strikes, and strikeouts.
Oh, wow.
And then you find the harmonic average and stuff like that to figure out who the best strikeout pitchers are. So the top 10 is first one is for the 2021 season. This is what I've got. Obviously, this is a rudimentary statistic. There might be holes in it, but you're looking at the who's who of strikeout pitchers here. So according to this statistic, the top one is Garrett Cole, then Robbie Ray, Zach Wheeler at number 3, Max Scherzer number 4, Kevin Gausman at number 5.
That's right.
Corbin Burns at number 6, Dylan Cease at number 7, Aaron Nola number 8, Walker Buehler number 9, rounding out the top 10, Mr. Old Man Time himself, Charlie Morton.
Look at that, man. It's the top 10 that's listed in here in terms of strikeouts. So you would have it sounds like you could have just sorted it by strikeouts, and you would have gotten almost
Yep.
the exact same result there. So
Almost. Then that's
yeah.
what I mean. This is a very rudimentary statistic, and I'm not even sure if it's the right thing you should consider when looking at a strikeout pitcher. I'm still working on it.
Yeah, we'll keep working on it, man. Well, let's figure out what the results are. In the meantime, I do have a statistic of my own. I could like to call this the 4x5 heroes. And, as you know, Austin, this is a fantasy baseball podcast at heart. So wins, ERA, whips, strikeouts. The only thing that we're missing from this is the saves, but that's for the relief pitchers, who we'll get to in just a moment. But this is pretty much what you're looking for when you're drafting a pitcher for fantasy baseball purposes. And I like to imagine that that's what people are looking for in terms of real life, especially if you're considering wins. A lot of old fogies still use the wins category, but there they are, your best starting pitchers in terms of fantasy traditional 5x5, or in this case 4x5, your 4x5 heroes. Max Scherzer, number 1. Zach Wheeler and Corbin Burns tied for 2nd. Walker Buehler at 4. Kevin Gausman at number 5. And Garrett Cole and Julio Urias are tied for 6th. So yeah, the list goes on forever and ever and a day, all the way down to Marcus Strowman, who we just talked about. So a lot of these guys we already talked about. Let's move on to the advanced stats now. Oh no, there's the advanced stats. Well, too bad. This is the way it is now. And I felt when I was doing this that the advanced stats, as always, for me at least personally, was a better indicator of who was a really good pitcher in 2021 than the traditional stats that we just looked at. But let's, equal opportunity time. So let's take a look. F4, that's the Fangraphs award, the all-encompassing, everything statistics that they like to use over there at Fangraphs. Wins above replacement. Corbin Burns at number 1, Zach Wheeler, Nathan Eovaldi, who was not mentioned in any of these other categories, the counting stats, the traditional stats, so to speak. Nathan Eovaldi, 3rd place in F4. Walker Buehler in 4th, Max Scherzer in 5th, Garrett Cole, Julio Urias, Kevin Gausman, Brandon Woodruff, and Charlie Morton to round out the top 10. Do you have anything to say about these 10 pitchers that I just listed here?
Nathan Eovaldi, I think he had a very misleading, actually pretty good season.
Yeah.
When you look at more of the advanced statistics, he has an ERA in the 3s, but of course we're going to get to FIP here in a second, but his FIP is in the mid-high 2s, which is telling me that he had a good season in terms of him pitching alone. What let him down was the defense behind him. So I would be really interested to see if if he was on a different team, a different defensive team, let's say, I don't know, the Cardinals or somebody like that, if Nathan Eovaldi would have shown up more on some of these leaderboards.
Let's see here. Moving on. Speaking of FIP, you mentioned it. Let's get going. Again, Corbin Burns. For those who are listening to audio only, might as well just spoil it for you. Corbin Burns in the 4 categories that we're going to talk about dominated each and every one of those, finishing in 1st place in F4, field independent pitching, XFIP, or otherwise known as expected field independent pitching, and Sierra, the Skills Interactive ERA. So, and what's field independent pitching? In the dumbest way I can explain it, it's basically, can a pitcher strike out guys, control their walks, control their home runs, and not hit so many damn batters? Corbin Burns fit that category just fine in that statistic. And then once again, Zach Wheeler finishing in 2nd, Nathan Eovaldi finishing in 3rd, Garrett Cole finishing in 4th, and then Brandon Woodruff rounds out the top 5. Some other surprises here? No, it's pretty much a who's who of dominant pitchers. I mean, Charlie Morton, once again, old man Charlie, proving that he's not old just yet, that the retirement talk was just a rumor that was not meant to be taken seriously, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like he was close. He was pretty darn close to retiring last year. XFIP, which accounts for home runs and is able to turn home runs into league average, something to that effect. But all I know is about XFIP is it does the same thing that field independent pitching does, but it tries to account for home runs that pitchers give up and compare it to league average. You can check out the rest of the definition over at the Fangraphs website. But again, Corbin Burns, Zach Wheeler, Garrett Cole, Brandon Woodruff, Max Scherzer in the top 5. Let's see anybody. Here we go. Eduardo Rodriguez is making an appearance here, and you know what I've noticed about XFIP there, Austin, because I like to play a lot with those statistics over at Fangraphs. I could spend all day just breaking down and figuring out and numbering, crunching numbers over at Fangraphs. And one thing I noticed about the XFIP statistics there, Austin, is that they like to take it easy on those Boston Red Sox pitchers.
Right. I was just thinking that the XFIP and that's where you're seeing the Red Sox pitchers. Other than that, you don't see Red Sox pitchers anywhere.
No, I mean, one of these days, just check out like the 93, 94, 95 starting pitching list, like just the leaderboard over at Fangraphs. And when you check out like the XFIP and FIP, especially XFIP, it's like a lot more Red Sox pitchers than I remembered.
I wonder if that has to do with the fact. I wonder if the Green Monster has anything to do with that.
It's a hitter's park.
Yeah.
So it basically gives a little bit of leeway to those pitchers in hitter's park, and it penalizes those in pitcher friendly parks. But I mean, let's see here.
The other thing that I'd like to see, and I know we don't have time for it on this episode, but I would kind of like to see if there's a correlation between the best fielders and the best pitchers in terms of FIP and stuff like that, and see if there's a correlation as to if they're on the same team or not.
Man, it sounds like that might be something that Fangraphs might have done a long time ago. It really does. That's a really good question. I like to think that there isn't, but I mean, there has to be, right? Because especially for traditional numbers, I know not the advanced stats, because the advanced stats, a lot of these account for those balls in play, but I would imagine that it definitely does correlate in showing good ERAs, good whips, things of that nature. A good fielding team will mask what will hide a lot of bad pitching tendencies.
Yeah,
that's the 2016 Cubs, man. They had a middle of the road bullpen, but according to Fangraphs, one Fangraphs article had that 2016 Chicago Cubs team as one of the, if not the absolute very best defensive team that was ever assembled in the history of baseball. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Cubs fan. That literally was what these guys wrote over at Fangraphs after they won the World Series. Like,
that's interesting.
Yeah. So, and of course, because Fangraphs has such a large database of articles, I can't ever find that article ever again. But you're gonna have to take my word for it. Finally, Sierra, that's like a Skills Interactive. No, that is the Skills Interactive ERA. It's kind of like the other statistics, but this one accounts for balls in play. And again, you can check out the rest of the definition over at Fangraphs, because I will definitely butcher it. The only thing you gotta know about these statistics there, Austin, you just gotta believe. When you believe, that's when things go well.
Because it involves a lot of math that none of the rest of us want to do.
No, you don't want to do it. You're a math teacher. I dare you to do that to your students.
Right?
Well, you notice that I said do that to your students as opposed to teach that to your students.
Yeah.
Because it's like a punishment. Hey, class, I want you to figure out the FIP for Julio Urias, and I want you to show me all your work, and no calculators.
They can't even, they're not even showing me their work when I'm asking them to multiply decimals.
Oh Lord, I'm pretty sure they Googled it, or they went on Reddit and got the answer. So anyway, Corbin Burns finishes at the top of the list in Sierra, followed by Max Scherzer, Garrett Cole, Zach Wheeler, Robbie Ray, Aaron Nola, so on and so forth. I mean, the one surprise name, Yu Darvish, who really was awful at the end of the year. I know this because I had him on my team, my points league team. And I don't know, Sean, on one of the most recent episodes that him and I did together on this show, did mention that he did see something on Twitter that stated that Yu Darvish was struggling a lot ever since they started cracking down on that sticky stuff. So,
well, I mean, I think a lot of pitchers were. I think it was just a matter of who was able to bounce back. People like Garrett Cole and, people like that. Yu Darvish just wasn't able to bounce back, it seems like.
Yeah, and he's a little bit older, and, he was rattled by the Houston Astros in 2017. You could tell that his confidence was down. Took him a year and a half to get his groove back, like Stella. And what kind of makes you wonder if there was something to that, like there was some other foreign substance that he was using. So it would be pretty damn ironic if the guy who was the poster boy of why cheating is bad in baseball, he himself turns around and ends up cheating himself, which by the way, I'm pretty surprised that there wasn't an uproar about all these stupid ass pitchers using all this illegal substances, it seemed like people were a little bit more leaning towards the pitchers than, oh, I don't know, the Houston Astros for stealing signs, which
You
is
know what? I was thinking the same thing. I thought there would be a lot of bashing of pitchers and stuff like that. And it seemed more like they were like, well, let them use the
let
sticky
them use
stuff.
it.
It's
Okay, well,
like,
let them steal signs by any means necessary.
yeah.
It's a tale as old as time. Pitchers want to
Or
doctor the ball, and hitters want to steal signs.
or let it go. Like let the sign stealing scandal go already. It was in 2017. We're in 2021 now. We have other problems. Like, let it go. Most of those guys aren't even on the team anymore.
Yeah, and the ringleader of it all, Alex Cora, won a championship right after, and he got a 1-year suspension. The manager got another job with the Detroit Tigers. You know why they got jobs? Because winning is all that matters by any means necessary. Okay. But honestly, I thought when the cheating scandal came out, I thought people were just gonna go, because that's the reaction that people have now with the steroid users. We've literally seen Hall of Fame players get elected who were users of PEDs, and people are like, whatever, it doesn't matter, it's fine. So that's why when the Astros were caught with the whole cheating scandal, I thought, oh well, this will blow over. Nope. Especially for the Yankee fans. Oh, the Yankee fans were pissed the fuck off.
Well, so, Dodger fans too out here in California. That's all I hear about from a Dodger fan is they got to bring up the Astros, even if I'm like, dude, I was talking about the Nationals. Where did the Astros come from? Like, that is not where I can, you know. And then the Nationals there, I like them better because they don't bang on trash cans. I'm like, I wasn't even talking about the Astros, dude. Like,
it became a trigger. Like, you know, hey, so you see the game last night? Oh, screw the Astros. They're a bunch of cheaters. I hope they all get their dicks chopped off. Like, what the hell?
Like, it was the White Sox versus the Twins. Like, that was in 2017. It is now 2021. Yeah, 5 years. Let it go.
Yeah, that's right, Elsa. Let it go. But the thing about that, though, I think the biggest problem is that they screwed two teams. They screwed the Yankees and the Dodgers, right? Yeah. You got the two largest market in America, and they're all joining forces to battle on the fourth largest TV market in America. So I think that's part of the reason why it's such a hot story and whatever. But I don't. It's a sport full of cheaters, history of cheaters. I don't know. It's such a gray area for me. Like I grew up in the 90s. I saw all my heroes end up being the biggest cheaters of them all. And I guess I'm just jaded at this point. I mean, cheating's cheating no matter what. But the only thing that people care about is if they get caught or not. Because if they get caught, then they're forever chastised. But if they don't get caught, they get into the Hall of Fame. No problem. Whatever.
Right.
All right. Well, this is the best, the last column we're going to share here, the best starting pitcher of 2021. And I get caught off here. But it's basically how many points you got in the advanced stats plus the strikeouts. Because that's all that matters to me in this world of pitching. And Corbin Burnes is your number one pitcher of 2021, followed by Zach Wheeler, Garrett Cole, Max Scherzer, my guy, Kevin Gausman. That's right. Robbie Ray and Brandon Woodruff. I tied for 6th, I should say. Nathan Eovaldi finishing in 8th. Aaron Nola and Walker Buehler round out the top 10. So there you have it. The best pitchers of the 2021 campaign. So that leads us to the one thing that's probably bugging you people out there who are watching. So who's your best starting rotation of 2021? And here we are in all its glory. Let's see if I can make that bigger.
Hey, look at that. Most of them did their homework.
Yeah, still waiting for Melvin to give me his Cy Young. And Vince is on vacation. That's why there's no Dong City tonight.
We'll give Vince a pass. It's all right, Vince.
Yeah, and plus, he's an expected father. So,
yeah.
Uh-oh. Was I supposed to say anything? Oops.
I think he's talked about it.
But to certain people, though. Anyway, awkward. All right, so Felipe, who is your top 6 rotation? Why did I go 6-man rotation? Because everybody's gonna go 6-man rotation. Plus, why not? Why you only limit yourself to 5 pitchers when 6 is more than 5? Corbin Burnes is my ace of 2021, followed by Max Scherzer, that old crusty veteran who will never die. Garrett Cole is my AL Cy Young. For those who are audio only, I highlighted Corbin Burnes in yellow to significant. What is wrong with me? To indicate that he is my National League Cy Young Award winner in my book, my spreadsheet book here, my Excel workbook. Zach Wheeler is my SP4, Kevin Gausman my SP5, and Brandon Woodruff is my SP6, beating out Robbie Ray. So I'm pretty sure that's going to cause some controversy, but I can't go against Brandon Woodruff, man. That's my guy. Our guy Sean picked Zach Wheeler as his NL Cy Young and Garrett Cole as his AL Cy Young. He also has Jacob deGrom as his SP6 because he's a Mets fan. So
Mets fan homer pick.
He also put in Walker Buehler because he's a Dodger fan as well. No, I'm joking. But Walker Buehler makes the list when I'm going from left to right. Austin, tell the class who you picked.
So I picked, it's a lot of NL pitchers and, AL sprinkled in there, but mostly NL pitchers. I have my SP1 and my NL Cy Young Award winner going to Corbin Burns. Number 2, Max Scherzer. My SP3, Brandon Woodruff. Number 4, Robbie Ray, and I have him as my AL Cy Young Award winner. Number 5, Walker Buehler. In a lot of the, in Fangraphs ERA minus, he was up there. Which Fangraphs ERA minus is equivalent to Baseball References ERA plus. He was up there, and with other things and FIP and stuff like that, he was up there. So give some love to Walker Buehler. And then the other one that I wanted to give some love to, I needed a 6th one. I could have went Kevin Gausman. I almost picked Gausman. I could have went Cole. I almost picked Cole, but I wanted to give some love to Nathan Eovaldi simply because I think his ERA is not really reflective of the type of season that he had, because I think his defense really let him down this year because like I said earlier in the podcast, his ERA was in the 3s. Whereas his FIP was in the 2s, which means that his defense really, really hurt him. So it'd be interesting to see where he was at if he had a better defense behind him when he pitched. So I'm giving some love to Nathan Eovaldi. He may not necessarily be in the top echelon, and obviously in some of the spreadsheets, or in most of the spreadsheet, he wasn't anywhere in the top, but I wanted to give some love to Nathan Eovaldi because he had a good season, even though he had kind of a bad defense behind him.
Oh, it's okay, man. The Red Sox fans will remind you that Nathan Eovaldi exists, so don't worry about it. What was I? Okay. Vince. Yeah, we're missing Vince. Henry, just late arrival to the list here as he was able to come through the clutch once again. Pick Zach Wheeler as his NL Cy Young winner. And again, followed by Corbin Burns and Max Scherzer. I started believing that he was just copying Sean's list. And then it got to Robbie Ray and Garrett Cole as his SP4 and SP5. And then Walker Buehler to round out the top 6. Robbie Ray is Henry's Cy Young Award winner, as he probably saw enough of Robbie Ray against the Yankees to realize that, this Robbie Ray guy, pretty damn good.
I'm going to say, look at the Yankee fan not picking the Yankee.
Yeah. I always say that I'm the biggest Yankee fan in this group, so. I always pick the Yankees to make it to the World Series, to represent the American League every single year. And I'm going to keep doing it until they give me reason not to. If anything, since I'm always wrong, according to a lot of people, I'm never right about anything. That just means the Yankees are never going to win as long as I keep picking them. So, hey, listen, America, anything to prevent the Yankees from continuing to ruin baseball, which it's not for lack of trying. Did you see that they're interested in not just Corey Seager, but also Carlos Correa? They want all the shortstops.
I did see that. That would be really, I just talked about it with Melvin on my podcast, and we were talking about where's Carlos Correa going to go. And he said, well, if Corey Seager doesn't go, then Carlos Correa would be a Yankee. But it'd be interesting to see if both of them made it.
Yeah. And then speaking of Melvin, right there, Corbin Burns is his ace, followed by Max Scherzer, Garrett Cole, Zach Wheeler, Walker Buehler. Yeah, that's a who's who, man. It's a pretty homogenized list here for good reason, with the exceptions being guys like Nathan Eovaldi, I guess Brandon Woodruff. Well, Austin, you picked Brandon Woodruff, never mind. Oh, I'm the only one who picked Kevin Gausman. I'm the only one who knows and appreciates the power that is Kevin Gausman.
He barely missed my list.
Maybe he should be on your list now. Anyway, so if you're out there, be sure to let us know who you would pick as your 5 or 6 man rotation based on 2021 performance. Let's move on to the relief pitchers. There they are in all their glory. Let's start with the holds. Some sort of wacky statistic that I really don't care too much trying to explain.
Still don't understand how a pitcher can get a hold.
I just know that
I don't get it.
I don't. All I know is that it rewards middle relief pitchers, even late inning relief pitchers.
Like
Who
some pitchers can pitch 1 inning and get a hold, and others can pitch 3 innings and get a hold. I'm like, I don't understand what qualifies as a hold. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't really care for it, but yeah, I mean Blake Trinan. I mean he's a pretty good pitcher. So that's all that matters. Is that the really good late inning guys. This is their time to shine, and this is how they get credit, even though it's kind of a random stat to some people. So let's see, Blake Trinan, number 1. Luke Jackson of the Braves. Tyler Rogers, that's Taylor's brother. Tyler with the submarine arm action over there in San Francisco. He finishes in the top 3 in holds. Genesis Cabrera over at the Cardinals, and along with Giovanni Gallegos, Tyler Matzik, who just won a World Series, Devin Williams, who was the one of the better pitchers of last year, and then he was pretty darn good this year until he broke his hand. I don't know, it's Brad Boxberger, AJ Minter, Andrew Chafin, Tyler Duffy, Yusmeiro Petit, and Adam Ottavino, the ex-Yankee, ex-Rockies pitcher there, now with the Red Sox. So that's the holds. So if you play fantasy baseball, or you just catch a lot of games late in the night and you see these guys, odds are they probably got a hold out of it. So, but the saves, those are more of the household names. Mark Melancon winning the saves category title this year, I guess, for leading the league in saves. And do I need to explain what saves are at this point? No, right? We're good.
No, I don't think so.
There you go. That's what I want to hear. Kenley Jansen, we thought he was on the decline and he was going to have an off year, and we were just kind of waiting on Bruce Star. I always butchered his name, even though he's Mexican. I think he's Mexican. Bruce Gatterall. He was supposed to replace Kenley Jansen this year, and that didn't happen. Or guys like him, because the Dodgers are usually pretty loaded in the bullpen. Anyway, I'm rambling on. Liam Hendricks, Will Smith getting jiggy with it. Josh Hader, Raisel Iglesias, to your surprise there, Austin.
Yeah.
He did pitch for the Angels this year, right?
Yes, he did. He was the closer for the Angels, and I still don't understand how he's up here.
Yeah, well, maybe it's the thick air, the Pacific breeze out in California.
With as bad as the pitching staff has been, and he got a terrible start to the season.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that he ended up here at the top. But I mean, good for him. He's probably the prized free agent relief pitcher coming out of this, free agent class. So
yeah,
we'll see what kind of payday he gets.
Edwin Diaz, Jake McGee, Aroldis Chapman, Alex Reyes. And there's another guy. We just mentioned 2 Cardinals pitchers in Genesis Cabrera and Giovanni Gallegos. And Alex Reyes. All 3 guys were competing for that closer's role at the beginning of the year back in March. Alex Reyes comes out victorious, and he comes out in the top 10 for saves. So I also do a little column here for holds and saves, which is kind of, it's whatever. Obviously I'm always looking to see if there's like a little bit of crossover here between holds and saves guys. There's not usually. These are top 10 guys finish in saves, top 10 guys finish in holds, and there's no Venn diagram like cohesion here. But Melancon wins the saves category, and Blake Trinan wins this holds category. Let's go to ERA for the relief pitchers. If my laptop decides to cooperate, there's your guy Aaron Loop finishing with the relief pitching ERA crown, finishing in first, followed by Josh Hader. Our guy Emmanuel Clase, Andrew Kittredge, Kendall Graveman round out the top 5. And if you want to check out the rest of these lists, check out our YouTube page later, or join us live when we're here to share screens and spreadsheets. Anyway, I noticed that a couple of guys are here from your list are here on the top 10 in ERA. Is that what you know? Is that what you did over there? Just go who was leading the league in ERA and just went with that?
I did not. I looked more into I really looked into the FIP and the ERA minus on Fangraphs and stuff. Those were the guys that were kind of up there, were Clase and Hader and Loop, and Kittredge was up there, and I figured Kittredge wasn't going in. The last few shows that we've had, it seemed like that a lot of lists were very similar. So for this pitchers one, I was like, let's pick somebody who had a good season that's probably not going to be on anybody else's list. And I feel like Kittredge was going to be one of those. So I focused on Kittredge.
Oh, well, good job over there trying to be different. I mean, you can't go wrong with these guys anyway. So
yeah.
Blake Trinan finishing out the top 10 in ERA so he gets the points for the holds and the points for the ERA. Let's go for the whip, which is if you play fantasy baseball, this is where you get those minuscule whips from these relief pitchers. This is how you make up for the fact that you got a bunch of high ERA starting pitchers. You get a bunch of relief pitchers that will save your whip category. And sure enough, Liam Hendriks at the top of the list, followed by Josh Hader, Giovanni Gallegos for the Cardinals. The Cardinals, that's why they got the wild card. And were able to go on that crazy 19-game winning streak or 21 game. I forgot how many games they won.
That. Yeah, it was something crazy.
They got the most guys to win Gold Glove awards in the history of the game. And they had 3 very good relief pitchers that I just mentioned that can come in the late innings and just lock down those victories for them. Chad Green, a mainstay on these lists. We kind of been on the dip and on the decline lately, but he's still making his mark and finishing in the top 10 in whip. And then Ryan Tepera, who kind of had a bounce back year with the Cubs and then with the White Sox. Jake McGee became a stalwart closer for the Giants. A big reason why they were able to win the National League West against all odds. Anybody that I may have named or not named on this whip category that you want to talk about there, Austin?
I think what I want to talk about is the fact that I think we're getting to a point where relief pitching is very diversified and it's a very niche type of position. You have your strikeout guys, you have your save guys, you have your guys that don't allow anybody to get on base because in this spreadsheet, we haven't seen very many common names, right? A different Cardinals pitcher is up here. You've got Chad Green up here, who hasn't been up here. You have down at the bottom, at the bottom there, tied. You have Richard Rodriguez. You have Andrew Chafin, who we haven't seen. Tyler Wells, who we haven't seen. It's really showing how diversified the relief pitching position is, and really just how many relief pitchers and good relief pitchers that there are in certain situations.
I mean, this list goes 45 deep. Last year, I think last year went almost 60, just because of, like you mentioned, the diversity and the more than one way to get the job done attitude for relief pitching is. So yeah, I mean, it's that's a really good point that you made there, that how to diversify, and the numbers show that. That's why there's so many guys listed here on this list. Let's go for strikeouts. It should be the same guy. Yeah, Liam Hendriks, Paul Sewald, who kind of came out of nowhere.
Here we go with it again, though. We ain't seen Paul Sewald in any of the rest of these.
Yeah.
In the rest of this spreadsheet.
Yeah. Raisel Iglesias, who will become a mainstay on these spreadsheets. Josh Hader, Craig Kimbrell, bounce back season to round out the top 5. And there's Chad Green again, making his presence felt once again, making sure people don't forget about him at number 6. So let's see. There were 10 pitchers listed here. Who's the guy that you were kind of scratching your head that he made it this far?
Hector Neris, probably.
Yep.
Hector Neris jumps out, but the other thing that jumps out at me is, now this isn't low because he's 8th, but Aroldis Chapman, the fact that 7 people beat him in relief pitcher strikeouts. I mean, remember when all anybody could talk about was, Aroldis Chapman and how fast he threw and how many strikeouts he can get and nobody can touch him. And he was at the top of every relief pitching leaderboard. And now he's the only place he shows up is in K's, and he's in 8th.
Yeah, I know he was hurt. He was hurt for a big chunk of the season.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's how good he is, that he was able to sneak into the top 10 in 2 categories, saves and strikeouts. But the rate stats are not very friendly towards him at all. So, and then the last category that I have here is the 4x5 heroes. Again, just like we did with the starting pitchers, fantasy baseball purposes, for a relief pitcher, you're looking for saves, ERA, whip, and strikeouts. And the number one guy, relief pitcher, so to speak, to get you 4 out of those 5 categories, not including wins, because wins. Who drafts a pitcher for wins anyway? A relief pitcher for wins in fantasy baseball. But Josh Hader finishes number 1 on the 4x5 heroes list, followed by Liam Hendriks, Raisel Iglesias, Chad Green. Again, guys who didn't get the saves, but they are able to get the low whip and the high strikeout amounts. So some people would say that, hey, sometimes that is a lot better That's just as good or as efficient as getting the guys who can get the saves.
Well, and there are enough people represented up here that are going to get you saves. So if you're looking at this from a fantasy standpoint, I mean, you have Josh Hader, you have Liam Hendricks, you have Aaron Loop, you've got Raisel Iglesias, you've got Kimbrel, you've got these guys that are going to rack up saves for you if they're on the right team. Obviously, the White Sox just picked up Kimbrel's option, so he'll probably be the 8th inning guy. But there's enough people that is going to get you a save. Somebody like a Chad Green will probably give you that extra little push in the relief pitching for, anything else that the starting pitching is not giving you, whether it be whip or ERA or something like that.
Yeah. And it goes back to your whole notion about the diversification. We're seeing a lot of different names here, not necessarily traditional closers. I mean, Paul Sewell is a name. Aaron Loop, he's plays with the Mets. He's teammates with Edwin Diaz, and he's able to sneak into the top 10 because of his very low ERA. So, so that's that. Those are the more traditional stats that people are always citing. Now we get to look at the advanced stats, starting out with wins above replacement according to Fangraphs. Liam Hendricks, number 1. Josh Hader, number 2. Ryan Pressly makes his first appearance, number 3. Jonathan Lewisia also making the list. And then Craig Kimbrel and Giovanni Gallegos round out the top 5, along with Emmanuel Clase, because there was a 3-way tie for 5th place. Names that we haven't seen yet: Scott Barlow. So anybody you want to talk about on this F4 list?
Who the hell is Scott Barlow?
Kansas City Royals. Yeah.
Okay. Again, different names depending on what statistic you look at. There's a different guy up there.
Yeah, I know he was trying to vie for some save opportunities in Kansas City. He was just too darn valuable, even for the Royals, who have no business trying to win as many games as they did. But I guess he was just too valuable in late inning relief to be put in as a permanent closer. I think Greg Holland was the closer.
I think so.
I think
you're right.
Whatever the case. I mean, if you're looking for a closer for the Royals, for fantasy purposes, you pretty much screwed yourself there. FIP, once again, field independent pitching. Doesn't matter who's behind you, because this guy's going to strike out everybody in sight. Josh Hader, number 1 in the hood, followed by Ryan Pressly, Emmanuel Clase, Colin McHugh, and Liam Hendricks would round out the top 5. Anybody on the top 10 that shows up? Your guy Andrew Kittredge, Jonathan Loizia, and there's Aaron. There you go, Aaron Loop and Edwin Diaz, right there on making the top 10 in FIP.
Yep. So different guy up there, Colin McHugh. He's only been up here a couple times in the spreadsheet, but Colin McHugh had a good season in his own right. As I believe he was the long relief guy for the Astros, wasn't he? Yeah. So credit to, this spreadsheet is riddled with closers, and the fact that Colin McHugh is able to get up here as a long relief guy in FIP shows he's got a pretty good season.
Yeah. I know I use them for fantasy baseball purposes. Like, why would I do that? Well, I'm in a category league that has a lot of rate stats and accounts for holds. Now, he didn't get the holds, but he gave you minuscule ERA and minuscule whip. Then he got hurt, and then he got shelled, and then he was no good to me anymore. So that was very late in the year. Shoulder problems, I believe, or forearm tension, something like that. But the thing that kind of catches my eye is that Edwin Diaz and Aaron Loop are here tied together, and the Mets still suck. I just don't get it.
Well, we've talked. I think it's been very public that I don't think it's necessarily their pitching, even though they do have some struggles with pitching. It's their run support. They don't have the offense. So we've already seen the best hitters. You didn't see very many Mets.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right about that. Yeah.
Whereas here, at least you're seeing some Mets. You saw Strowman up here. You see Diaz. You see Loop. You see those guys. DeGrom. You're seeing these guys up there. Whereas offense, those guys are nowhere to be found.
And you only see DeGrom here because Sean wanted him there. So
yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, it's always gonna bother me that team is loaded with talent and they can't do anything with it. And they just saw we talked about this, right? 2 division rivals win championships in the last two out of the 3 seasons.
Right.
So yeah, that's inexcusable. I'm sorry. I mean, and not just the fact that the Mets, as we go off another tangent here, not just that the fact that the Mets have all this talent, they don't utilize it correctly, but they also they seem to have a tendency to have a lot of key guys get injured constantly. Yes. So now you got to wonder, okay, who is running I know that was a big controversy between Yankee fan and Mets fans. So all right, why can you guys get a competent medical staff to get these guys back on the mend and get them out there and ready to go again? So I don't know, but every time I think about the Mets, I can't help but think about the New Orleans Pelicans, who were notorious for having guys just constantly injure. Anthony Davis, Drew Holiday, forever and a day. And you know what happened over there? We found out was the owner, Tom Benson, who also owns the New Orleans Saints. Well, to save money, he would just bring in some of the Saints medical staff to what do you call it? Help out in the Pelicans medical staff to save some money. I mean, it's safe to say that different athletes who play different sports need different treatment, right?
Right.
I mean, would you want a football medical staffer trying to figure out what's wrong with you after you got a baseball injury? I don't know.
I probably not. I probably wouldn't. So
it's just so weird. And then they because with football, it's a week-to-week thing. And like, all right, well, we're gonna do whatever it takes to get you back. And the other sports like baseball and basketball, it's a longer season, so it's more of a slow and steady wins the race mentality. But anyway, again, tangent. XFIP, Liam Hendricks.
Look at all the basketball references that we're having. Where's the step back hosts?
Jacob and Leon, yeah. Speaking of which, how's my fantasy team? No, I'm just joking. Are you in the basketball group there, Austin? I don't think I ever see you in the basketball group.
No, I'm not in the basketball group. I don't really watch basketball. I mean, I don't watch it enough to say anything intelligent.
All right. Well, it sounds like I'm going to have to invite you anyway. All right. So XFIP, Liam Hendricks, Raisel Iglesias, number 2, Josh Hader, number 3, Ryan Presley, number 4, Emmanuel Clase, number 5, and so on and so forth. Craig Kimbrell shows up in the top 10 again. Aaron Bummer, another White Sox pitcher, shows up in the top 10. Richard, you mentioned it, just guys, a variety and a slew of different guys right here to finish out the top 10. Aaron Bummer, Richard Blyer, Tim Meza, and Brooks Raley. Brooks Raley, I think we talked about him being on the Astros.
Yeah.
And Tim Meza just seems to be a guy who sneaks into a lot of these lists. So yeah, lots of variety here. And my favorite statistics: Sierra, Skills Interactive ERA, Liam Hendricks, Raisel Iglesias, Josh Hader. I mean, it's the same guys at the top. Craig Kimbrell, Ryan Presley, and then you get to the bottom half of the top 10. Paul Sewell, Emmanuel Clase, Matt Barnes. First time we're seeing his name.
Yeah.
Richard Blyer and Daniel Hudson. We just talked about the Washington Nationals. That's the guy who made the final out, didn't he?
Yes.
I forgot who he struck out. Was it?
Oh, I don't remember. That's been a couple of years ago.
Carlos Correa. Oh, but you haven't gotten over it there?
Oh,
or you did get over it. Okay.
Yeah, I got other things to worry about.
Yeah, like teaching kids how to calculate Sierra properly so you can better understand it.
Exactly.
Just have them do your work.
Exactly, right? I should have them do my podcast research. It'd be much easier on my day.
It'd be much easier on my day, but I don't trust your kids to know their way around a spreadsheet. So
I don't trust mine either. So
yeah, I can't wait to get those angry letters from your parents, from your students' parents there.
Right.
So the final column on this spreadsheet before we finish up the show here, all we got was one more spreadsheet to show you, and then we're done. We're going to call it a night here. Is the best relief pitcher of 2021 based on the holds and saves metric that I used up here, right?
Right.
What else did I use? Strikeouts right there, this column right here. And all 4 of these rack up the points. And with 54 big points, Liam Hendricks is your winner. The closer of closers, the relievers are relievers. Nothing says you are in trouble because I just brought out my number 1 ace pitcher out of the bullpen than Liam Hendricks. And Josh Hader, who has been one of the more dominant relief pitchers, also makes a top 5 appearance, top 3 appearance once again. Josh Hader finishing at number 2. Raisel Iglesias is the big surprise here, finishing at number 3 on this list. followed by Ryan Presley, Craig Kimbrell, Emmanuel Clase, Paul Sewald, Giovanni Gallegos, Edwin Diaz, Mark Melanson, and Blake Trinan to round out the top 10. And I think we pretty much talked about most of these guys, unless you want to have one final say about this spreadsheet or any of these guys that are listed here.
I think I've said enough about this spreadsheet
this
last little bit.
All right, let's finish off the strong. And I can't believe how black and white my spreadsheet here looks. You know why I went this color scheme right there, Austin?
Why?
You know, because Liam Hendricks colors, man. He plays for the White Sox.
Well, there you go.
He's the best relief pitcher in 2021. Didn't you know that?
Yes, apparently so.
Yeah, you barely got him in as your number 6 closer. What the hell, man? How is that possible? And then Henry and Melvin and Felipe. We all know what's up, man. We all know what's up. Number 1 in the hood. Still waiting on Sean and Vince to give us their top 6.
I'm a little biased towards Josh Hader because he helped me rack up all the saves on my fantasy team.
And that's a guy you're seeing on everybody's list so far. Liam Hendricks, Josh Hader, Raisel Iglesias made I wasn't gonna put him, but I mean it's hard to argue with the top 10 finishes that he had, so I put him on the list. Followed by Craig Kimbrell, kind of a nice little story there. A guy who we thought was done and couldn't find location and command. Was able to get his groove back, although once he got to the White Sox, he started to suck again, but that's another story for another time. Ryan Presley and Emmanuel Clase. These actually 1, 2, 3. Liam Hendricks, Ryan Presley, Emmanuel Clase, special place in my heart. They helped me finish number 1 in regular season win-loss record in the Baseball Life Fantasy Baseball League.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there I go. Austin, of course, he like promised. He said that he was gonna go a little bit different. So he got Josh Hader, Aaron Loop, Emmanuel Clase. That's fine. And then Andrew Kittredge, Colin McHugh, and Liam Hendricks as his 6th best relief pitcher. But I think you mentioned why you went that route, right? Already, ERA minus and all that.
Yeah, I went that route. Yeah, Liam Hendricks was really, really good. I mean, if I had to do this list again, he'd probably go a little higher. But I was really focusing on, because there's so many different guys in relief pitching. Like, I mean, if you gave me this relief, this bullpen, I would be really happy for 2021. You had Aaron Loop, who had a good season in his own right. He showed up on the spreadsheet a little bit. Colin McHugh, he had a really great whip for a long relief pitcher. Give me him for long relief. Andrew Kittredge. I mean, you can't go wrong with anybody in that Rays bullpen. Liam Hendricks, obviously, with Josh Hader, was one of the best closers in baseball this year. And Emmanuel Clase is on other lists here with the other Baseball Life podcast hosts. So, I mean, it is a little bit of a different list. I kind of looked at, ERA minus and FIP and stuff like that. But again, there was so many guys on these lists. I think it was really hard to choose who was the best among all. Obviously, the only names that we saw the whole time were Josh Hader and Liam Hendricks.
Yeah, basically, pretty much. Emmanuel Clase started showing up for everybody as well. I mean, he's on my list. He's on your list. He's on Henry's list. The one name that kind of sticks out for Henry is Jonathan Lewisia. It makes it seem like it was a homer pick, but I mean, we saw the numbers. I mean, really hard to argue against.
Yeah, he had a good season for the Yankees bullpen in his own right.
Damn, yeah, it's exactly. Aroldis Chapman, I mean, maybe as a top 10 pitcher, you can make an argument as top 6 of 2021. I don't know. So maybe a little bit of Yankee bias, but again, he's a mainstay for many years. And maybe Henry's thinking that, hey, had he been healthy, he would have probably finished in the top 5 easily once again in his rightful place. So
maybe
Ryan Presley makes Henry's list as well. A little bit of Astros love from Henry. It's going to let that simmer there. So for those who don't know, Henry is a big Yankees fan. Of course, you watch Song City every week when they're here. Melvin went with pretty much the same as my list, even though he didn't see my list beforehand. But Liam Hendricks, Josh Hader, Raisel Iglesias, he agrees with you on Aaron Loop, and a little bit of a homer pick with Andrew Chafin. But Andrew Chafin finished top 10 in the holds category, and that's it. I'm sorry, what was that? I'm sorry.
I said yes, he did.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's it. That's the spreadsheets that we had to show you. That's the best pitchers of 2021, according to Austin and I. And that is a good place to stop. Austin, thank you for once again showing up on the airwaves. Really appreciate it on a Wednesday night.
Thank you for having me. I always appreciate coming on here, and always like talking a little more statistics, which is a little bit different from. I mean, I talk statistics on my show, but it's a little different.
Yeah, and that's just the different perspectives, you know. I know Sean. Sean would have loved this episode be on this episode because pitching is like his thing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't have that kind of patience with pitchers, unless it's relief pitchers, but that's because I love relief. I love talking about relief pitchers because number one, they don't get the love that they deserve.
Right.
But number two, it's like it's just so it's so simple. Just throw the ball as hard as you can, strike out a bunch of guys, and you know they get they're the biggest clutch people ever. Right. You know, the starter messes up. They left the bases loaded. Here comes the big hulking mass of an arm out of the bullpen to shut down that door. And they do it more often than not.
Yes.
So that's why. But in terms of starting pitchers, I just don't have the patience for them. I don't like talking about starting pitchers, unless it's about strikeouts, then I'm all for it. But the way Sean would have been talking about release points and how the fastball rises and how the changeup dips and how the breaking balls break, and that would have been a very Statcast filled, scouty episodes. And the point was just to show you how a different, even us stats folks view the world of baseball, I guess is what I'm trying to say here.
Right.
Any last words? Where can they find you?
Yeah, a couple things. So first I'll plug my show. So I am the host of the Round Trippers podcast. You can find me on Spotify and Google Podcasts and anywhere else that you probably are listening to podcasts. You can also join the discussion with me on Baseball Life. If you're not on the Baseball Life group, go ahead and join it, and you can talk with me and Felipe on a daily basis about everything that has to do with baseball. I talk pretty much anything that has to do with baseball, not just MLB. The last episode, I just talked with Melvin about the winter leagues and some international baseball. And then I'm going to be talking a little more stats in the next episode. So I'm pretty excited about that. You can also join the discussion with me on Twitter at @round_trippers. And the final, and then you can also find me in Pop Culture Life. I am I guess you want to call it the producer, but I'm also going to be the host, or I'm going to be part of the discussion in these next few episodes where we are going to talk the best winter holiday movie of all time. The bracket has started and matchups have started. We're 3 matchups down, and yeah, it's really exciting. A lot of cool discussion. So if you're a movie buff, you're not in Pop Culture Life yet. If you're really a music buff or anything about pop culture, go ahead and go over to Pop Culture Life and join the discussion there. The final comment I'd like to have is on the eve of Veterans Day, on the 11th day, the 11th hour, and all of that. I would like to thank all of the veterans. You are really a staple in this country. You are really part of what makes this country great and why we are able to have podcasts like these, and we are free to talk about baseball like we talk about baseball. So to all the veterans out there, thank you very much. And a special shout out to my father. My father served 8 years in the Army, and I want to extend a special thank you to my father. So Dad, thank you.
Oh man, that's good stuff. I did not know that about your father.
Yeah.
Did he serve any wars?
He was in Desert Storm.
Oh, the original Iraqi war.
Yeah.
Man. Well, I do think your dad long distance for his service, and everybody else. I didn't. It's I don't want to get too deep into it because it's, you know, with me, I just talked about the Astros being a gray area for me.
Right.
The military is a gray area, but man, the sacrifices that those folks take in year after year after year, it's pretty heartbreaking, but it's the sacrifices that we all should appreciate, because, you know, I'm not going to war. You're not going to war anytime soon.
Right.
Only war I want to talk about is wins above replacement. So So I also extend my warmest thanks to all the veterans out there, all my friends who serve in this country. I have a lot of good personal friends who are still buddies of mine, and they served as well while I was in college. So, I mean, you could say that without them, I wouldn't have fulfilled my educational career or dreams or whatever. So it's a heck of a sacrifice. So salute to all the veterans out there tomorrow on Veterans Day. What was the last thing I wanted to say? We're down to one more show. I the more I think about it, the more I want to definitely finish up on Sunday. So catch us then live here on the Baseball Live Facebook group, and that will be the last show of November in time for the holiday. So enjoy it, because you're gonna miss us when we're gone.
Always.
And you can also find me on Twitter at pathological_the letter H, the number 8. We'll be back on Sunday. For Austin, I am Felipe. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Okay, so